Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're really getting into something lots of you have asked about.
That's right, mastering British English pronunciation.
Exactly. And we've gathered, quite a bit of material, articles, notes, research snippets, all focusing on this one technique. It's called shadowing.
And our mission, really, in this deep dive is to cut through all that information.
Yeah, distill it down.
We want to pull out the most practical ways you can actually use shadowing, to improve that British sound, get clearer, feel more confident speaking.
Because there's something about that sound, isn't there?
Yeah.
That crispness, that sort of iconic BBC or Harry Potter vibe people often mention.
Definitely. It's very appealing to many learners.
And this is important, we're not talking about, achieving perfection overnight or losing your own voice.
No, not at all. It's about practical practice, adding a useful tool.
So let's define it. What is shadowing based on what we've looked at?
Well, the sources often describe it almost like mimicking magic. It sounds a bit dramatic, maybe. But the core idea is simple. You listen to a native speaker, someone with the accent you're aiming for.
Right.
And you repeat what they say almost immediately after them, like milliseconds behind.
So not listen, pause, repeat. It's more simultaneous.
Much more simultaneous. You're trying to copy everything, the pronunciation, sure, but also the tone, the rhythm, the speed, the whole package.
Okay, like an echo. That makes sense. It sounds quite active.
It is. It's basically training your mouth muscles and your ears at the exact same time. Active listening meets active speaking.
Okay, I get the what, but the why.
Right.
Why do the sources suggest it's so powerful? Some even say, 3 times faster.
Yeah, that figure pops up. It's likely an estimate, but the reasoning behind its effectiveness is interesting. There seem to be 3 main things going on.
Okay.
First, it builds what they call mouth muscle memory. You're literally forcing your mouth, your tongue, lips, jaw into the shapes needed for British sounds. Shapes that might feel new.
Like teaching your mouth new gymnastics.
Sort of, yeah, exactly. Second, it helps you internalize the melodic British flow. That natural rhythm and intonation.
The music of it.
Precisely. Language isn't just sounds in isolation, it has a tune. Shadowing helps you copy that whole pattern.
Right. Getting the melody, not just the notes.
Yes. And the third reason, which might be the most crucial, is the instant feedback.
Okay. Tell me more about that.
Because you're speaking almost with the native speaker, your own ears are hearing your voice and the target voice nearly simultaneously.
So you can compare instantly.
Exactly. Your brain kind of auto-corrects. You hear the difference right away. Oh, my vowel was off there, or my 10 wasn't crisp enough, and you can adjust on the next try.
That immediate comparison loop.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see how that would speed things up compared to, say, recording yourself and listening back later.
Right. It's that intense real-time engagement of both listening and speaking that seems to be the key driver for that potential acceleration. Perception and production trained together.
Okay, I'm sold on trying it. So, for someone listening now thinking, right, I want to start, what's the very first step according to the materials?
The first step is picking your material carefully. You need clear audio or video of native British speakers.
What kind of material works best?
Well, the advice is to start short, like really short clips, maybe just a minute or 2 long.
Okay.
Think things like BBC News clips, maybe snippets from podcasts, even bits from TV shows like The Great British Bake Off, where people are talking fairly naturally.
Bake Off is a good one. Lots of natural chat.
Yeah, or Harry Potter audiobooks, British YouTubers, even something like Love Island, apparently, for very casual speech.
Okay, a wide range then. Once you have your clip, what's the actual process?
Listen to it once just to get the gist, then play it again, and this time you speak along.
Right, with them.
Or just a fraction of a second behind.
Yeah.
You can pause after a sentence or even a phrase if you need to catch up initially.
And the focus is just copying the sound.
Exactly. Mimic everything. Pronunciation, the ups and downs of the voice, the pace, the pauses. Don't stress too much about understanding every single word at first. Just mimic the sound.
I can imagine feeling, a bit silly doing that. Trying to perfectly copy someone.
Oh, absolutely. That comes up a lot in the advice. It feels awkward initially for almost everyone.
So what's the tip?
Practice alone first. Find a space where you feel comfortable, where you won't worry about anyone hearing you mess up.
Good idea.
And just laugh it off if you stumble or sound funny. The key message is always progress, not perfection. Every time you try, even if it's clumsy, you're doing the work. Building the memory, training the ear.
Makes sense. Progress, not perfection. Okay, so are there specific British sounds that the sources say shadowing is particularly good for tackling, things people often struggle with?
Yes, definitely. They highlight a few key areas. One big one is the crisp T.
Ah, the T sound.
Yeah. In many British accents, the T sound, especially between vowels or at the end of words, stays quite sharp and distinct, not softened to a D sound like in some other varieties of English.
Like in butter.
Exactly. You'd aim for butter with a clear T, not butter. The classic example they always give is water.
How does that sound?
More like water, or sometimes even more reduced, like water with a glottal stop. Shadowing helps you hear and practice that crispness or the stop.
Right, war. Got it. What else besides the T?
Vowels. Big focus on vowels, sometimes called vowel magic in the notes, which is maybe a bit fun.
Vowel magic, okay.
It just means the vowels are often shaped differently, maybe held a bit longer than in, say, standard American English. The classic example is the A sound.
In words like
Bath, dance, pass, can't. Instead of that short A sound like in cat, it's often a longer, more open A sound, more like the A in father.
So bath, dance, pass.
Precisely. Getting that vowel right really shifts the sound of the accent.
Okay, crisp T's, these longer vowels. Anything else major?
The R sound, or rather the lack of it sometimes.
Ah, the dropped R.
Exactly. It's technically called non-rhoticity. In many British accents, the R isn't pronounced if it comes at the end of a word or before a consonant.
Like car.
Yeah, car often sounds more like ka, or park becomes park.
So that phrase they mentioned, I parked my car in Harvard Yard.
That's the perfect practice sentence. You'd aim to drop the R sound at the end of parked, car, Harvard, and yard. Hearing a native speaker say it and shadowing them helps you get that pattern.
That's a huge difference if you're used to pronouncing all your R's.
It really is. And they also mention smaller things like the weak vowel sound, the schwa, ha, often used at the end of words like better.
Making it sound like bet-all.
Yeah. And also focusing on specific sounds in very common words, like getting the short sound right in sorry or what.
Okay, so it helps target these specific tricky sounds. Now, the material didn't just say repeat, did it? It had specific drills or like practice hacks.
It did, yeah. To make it more structured or maybe more engaging, they suggest turning shadowing into specific drills.
Like what?
There's the newsreader challenge. You take a formal clip, like a BBC newsreader,
Okay.
saying something like, the weather today is rather unpredictable. And you shadow that, really focusing on that clear, perhaps slightly exaggerated pronunciation, especially the vowels.
Trying to get that received pronunciation crispness. I can picture that.
Then, for contrast, there's the casual pub talk drill.
More relaxed.
Much more. You find a clip of casual conversation, maybe from a reality show or just friends chatting, and shadow that. Focus on the rhythm, the linking of words, maybe the rising intonation you hear in questions or informal statements.
Like shadowing fancy a cuppa. This rain's proper miserable.
Exactly. Capturing that natural everyday flow is just as important.
True. Any others?
There was the polite request drill. This is about focusing on sounds within common, polite phrases.
Ah, useful stuff.
Like, sorry, could you possibly pass the biscuits? Shadowing that helps you nail the short O in sorry, maybe that longer A in pass, and the general polite intonation.
The sources also gave some specific phrases to try, didn't they? Sort of warm-ups and real-life examples.
They did. Good ones to practice with. Maybe you listening can try pausing and repeating these after us.
Okay, let's try a few warm-ups. Aim for calm, clear, confident. How about, I'd like a cup of tea, please?
Your turn. That's quite brilliant, isn't it?
Could you pass the water? Focusing on that blah.
Now for some slightly longer, more conversational ones they suggested. Try repeating this. I'm terribly sorry I didn't catch that.
Good one. How about, let's meet at 5:30.
And another. She's got a lovely accent, hasn't she?
Let's do two more. Repeat this. Would you like to join us for dinner?
And finally, I'm afraid I can't make it today. The idea is just repeating these common chunks helps lock in the patterns.
Definitely. And they had some slightly quirkier tips too. The pro accent hacks.
Ah, yes. Little tricks. One was the T-sip trick.
What?
It sounds odd, but it's about posture. Subtly adjusting your posture as if you were politely sipping tea can apparently change your jaw and mouth positions slightly, helping with certain sounds.
Interesting. And the core blimey workout. Sounds intense.
That one's about just loosening up your mouth muscles. You deliberately try out some really exaggerated sounds or phrases, maybe some over-the-top Cockney like "core blimey, governor," or super posh RP.
Just to stretch the muscles.
Exactly. Gets your mouth ready for the more subtle movements of normal speech, like a vocal warm-up.
And the easiest hack, maybe? Telly time.
Ah, yes. Just watching British TV, especially shows with natural conversation like Bake Off Again or panel shows, dramas. It's great for just absorbing the rhythm, intonation, slang, things you don't get from textbooks.
So consistency seems key. How much practice do they actually recommend?
It's not about hours and hours. The consistent message is little and often. Make it a habit.
Oh, yeah, how much?
Suggestions varied, but generally around 5 to 15 minutes a day seemed common, maybe 5 days a week. The point is regular, focused practice.
And you can do it anywhere, right?
Pretty much. While walking, cooking, waiting for the kettle to boil, before bed. Just snatch those few minutes whenever you can.
There was also a really powerful tip about using your phone.
Ah, recording yourself. Yes. This one's huge, though may be a bit daunting for some.
How does it work?
You shadow a short clip, maybe a sentence or two. Then you record yourself saying the same sentence without shadowing, just from memory.
Okay.
Then you listen back, first to the original native speaker, then to your recording, back and forth.
To spot the differences.
Exactly. It makes it really clear where you might need to tweak things. Maybe your vowel in cheers is off, or your rhythm on schedule isn't quite right. It gives you specific targets.
Takes a bit of bravery to listen to your own voice critically, but I can see how effective that would be.
It's incredibly effective, and also kind of fun to track your progress over time. Keep those recordings.
They even suggested framing it as a challenge, didn't they? A 7-day accent challenge.
Yeah, just a fun way to structure if you're starting out. Mix it up. Maybe day 1 and 2, shadow BBC headlines for that formal practice. Day 3, try mimicking some casual chat from Love Island or a similar show.
Okay, contrast.
Day 4, record yourself reading a line from Harry Potter, maybe trying a character voice. Day 5, focus just on vowel sounds in a list of words. Day 6, teach a friend a bit of British slang you learned, like minging for gross.
Why teaching?
Because explaining how to pronounce it forces you to get it right yourself. Locks it in. Day 7, maybe review your recordings from the week.
That sounds like a really practical way to get started and stay motivated. So if someone does this consistently, puts in that 10-15 minutes a day, what results can they realistically expect?
Well, the sources are pretty optimistic. With regular practice, you should definitely notice your pronunciation sounding more natural, closer to your target accent.
So clearer speech.
Yes, clearer speech overall. Those crisp T's should start appearing, the rounded vowels becoming more consistent.
And fluency, confidence.
Both should improve. As you get more comfortable with the sounds and rhythms, your fluency tends to increase, and with that comes confidence. You're less hesitant because you trust your pronunciation more. Speaking speed and natural rhythm are also big benefits mentioned.
It sounds like the mindset around it is pretty important too.
Oh, absolutely crucial. Every source seemed to emphasize this. Have fun with it. Don't get bogged down by mistakes.
Enjoy the process.
Yes. Enjoy the sounds. Enjoy experimenting. It's practice, play, almost not a stressful exam. They use phrases like, your British English voice is already in you. You just have to unlock it.
I like that. Less pressure.
Exactly. It's about unlocking potential through consistent, enjoyable practice.
Okay, so wrapping up our deep dive into all this material. Shadowing comes across as a deceptively simple, but potentially really powerful technique.
Definitely. Simple concept, but the way it actively involves your listening and speaking faculties at the same time seems to hit the key mechanisms for accent improvement.
The muscle memory, the rhythm acquisition, that instant feedback loop.
All working together.
And the goal, ultimately, isn't just about sounding correct, but about achieving greater clarity, boosting confidence, and, well, getting closer to that British sound you admire.
Right. It's about effective communication and feeling good about how you speak.
The sources left us with a couple of nice final thoughts, didn't they? One was about speaking with style and soul.
Yeah. Don't just learn English. Speak it out loud. Speak it with style. Speak it with soul. It suggests going beyond just accuracy.
And the other one was a bit more whimsical.
The one about biscuits. The Queen's English isn't about perfection. It's about practice with biscuits.
Which is great. But that idea of style or soul, how does shadowing, this mimicking technique, lead to that? It sounds almost counterintuitive.
Well, I think the idea is that as you practice, as you internalize the sounds and rhythms through repetition, through that physical act, it stops being just mimicry.
It becomes more natural.
It becomes part of your range, your way of expressing yourself in English. The style comes from the confidence and fluency it builds, and the soul, perhaps, from feeling more connected to the language and how you use it. The practice makes it authentic to you.
And the biscuit just reminds you to relax and enjoy it.
Precisely. Keep it light, keep it enjoyable.
So the takeaway for you listening is maybe give shadowing a try this week.
Just find a short clip you like the sound of, listen. Then try speaking along, see how it feels.
You might surprise yourself. That British sound you're aiming for might be closer than you think.
Absolutely. It's about unlocking what's potentially already there.
Great stuff. Well, until our next deep dive.
Para for now.